Many of the individuals here have already spoken that, well, Liberia has signed up to this plastic, banning plastic initiative, and it won't just for the group. But I would like to start with Madam Betty. From your perspective, as the most recent experience treating environmentalists from China, I would like to know your perspective.
Thank you. Good afternoon. A lot has been said here today, and a lot has been knocked on the EPA doors. It seems like nothing is happening, but it pleases me to inform you that EPA is working. And let's just say, when you are crying in the rain, nobody sees your tears. So I think that's what is happening to the EPA. We have said that we want to beat plastic. And plastic, what is the urgent need? First of all, plastic is going to cause harm to your health. That's the first thing. And one thing you need to know when it comes to plastic, don't think you are seeing a plastic line that it has nothing to do with it. Oh yes, you are eating plastic. So you need to stop eating plastic. That's why you need to take matters into your own hands. And I say waste issue is everybody's business, not the government. The plastic you see there takes 1,000 years or more, so it doesn't get rotten so easily. Conservation says, eat today and save for tomorrow, simply. So if you put so many plastic in the soil, your plants won't grow, because then the plastic, the plants, the roots, it sits just on the plastic and it goes nowhere. What happens when your kids come? Generations after generations. Plastic is being produced with chemicals. Some of them, they are carcinogenic. They are lead, there's cadmium, there's you name it. And these things, they are called heavy metals. They affect your body. The chemicals that the plastic is produced with will cause harm to your body. It will destroy your reproductive system. It will affect the immune system, and you need it. This is the urgent need. The plastic you produce and you put on the side ends up in the water. The water sources, you have fish, you have shrimps, you have crabs. You eat them, you eat the plastic. Because this plastic, the wind action, solar activity, whatever you can need, take action on the plastic and break them down into very smaller particles called nanometers, nanoplastics, microplastics. These things go into the fish body, they get stuck, you eat it, you eat plastic. Test results have shown, and EPA has done one, that the plastic is found in the fish. Other research has shown that plastic is found in the water that you drink and in the soil. And it's even said that it's being found in pregnant women. So that means we are transferring them to our kids. So this is the urgent need where you need to do away with plastic. What can you do? What is the way forward? We say separation of waste. Separate the waste. Take the plastic away from the perishable waste. The plastic is value. People are here and they will transform the plastic to either yard tires, bricks, or they will turn them into fuel. And then we say the CBEs, CBO, waste service providers, they need support to augment their capacity. So let's say a CBE is producing he's transforming 10 tons of plastic per day. We want to help them to be able to transform 1,000 tons per day. When you do that, you will not have plastic problem. And we say using plant-based materials When I was small, we took baskets to the market. We're not using baskets anymore. People use banana leaves or cocoa leaves and put food in it and eat. It didn't cause any problem, but now we're using plastic. We're using foil papers. Where do they end? So we have our own problems. Take actions and change so that you have a better environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My name is Chidera Dyer Smith from Evergreen Africa Conservation, a recycling and waste management institution from the youth background. As my colleague said, the issue of plastic, she highlighted some of the danger of plastic to our environment, to our health. But my interest here is how can we put a halt to the usage of single-use plastic or microplastics. And when it comes to waste management, Liberia have gone bad until we got a lot of international. I'm refusing as people to get involved with this process because everybody is sitting and waiting for government to come and collect their waste and go and dispose of them, which is a bad practice. Waste management is an A to Z business. You can start A and leave Z out. Everybody needs to be included. And because people are not cognizant of the danger of waste and the impact waste have on climate actions, today our country is tilted and causing the mortality rate to increase from the issue of waste. Another issue here when it comes to the issue of waste, we have been facing challenge in our economy because there are a lot of legislations and policies that tackle the issue of waste, its separation, and its recycling that can be used for other economic valuable products and services. We have had this challenge in our environment because of the lack of legislation to enforce the issue of waste. Waste management is not salt and pepper business. If you drink from a plastic, you are responsible to dispose of that plastic. And because of your inability to know the danger it's causing to your action, we are continuing to have problems. On this bill, I identify a few recommendations that I decided to support this discussion with. One, we have municipal governments are not into revenue generation to support government budget because they are not active into environmental activities. Two, we suggest that the Environmental Protection Agency of the Republic of Liberia have a task force to enforce those legislation that have been passed over the years and go after them by making sure they are implemented and adhered to. Three, we say stop concessioning our extractive industry. Our concession companies have been causing a lot of problems to our environment. And those concession companies, concession activities need to be stopped if they are not biodiversity friendly. Because most time people get into the concession industry, the extractive industry from the concession background, and they pollute the environment, they pollute our marine habitat, they destroy our environment, and they leave without penalties. Another thing that was mentioned is to integrate traditional and cultural promotion to adhere to the healthy ocean and wetland ecosystems. We cannot get to save our planet or save our country or make the impacts we are making in terms of global contribution without traditional activities. Because you need women and children are on the front line of disasters. And these disasters are caused by our human activities on a daily basis. And without taking into consideration the gender balance, without taking into consideration their tradition and cultural practices, you will not be able to have an impact when it comes to climate action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Bianco. Can we have your views on these particular
So, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It's been a long session, but you've been very educated. And I'm just going to make my own contribution real fast. I'd like to start by saying Our relationship with plastic needs rethinking. We have to start rethinking how this whole plastic business we're involved with, how we should go about it. I understand from what I have researched and what I've seen that plastic can be very versatile. We use them for different purposes. But the way we use them, I'm afraid to say, is incredibly wasteful. Like my colleague said, tons of plastic worth billions of dollars end up in the landfill where they go into the soil and destroy them, and they get burned in the community because some people don't know how to get rid of the waste. Put all those plastic together, burn it, but what happens? The substance is still be there in the soil. Or they get leaked into our environment, which is harmful for us. There's a documentary that I always like to watch. It's called The Blue Planet. Have you seen The Blue Planet before? Anybody seen it? That documentary shows the beauty of the ocean and how much the ocean gives back to us as people in the environment. But what do we do as people to that is serving us? What do we do? It says that 80 billion tons of plastic is leaked into the ocean every year. And that number is even rising. If we do not rethink the use of plastic, I can tell you there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish if we continue this plastic. That documentary shows how much plastic pollution does to the wildlife in the world at large. It is also said that plastic has increased of 24 in the past 50 years. While this material can be useful or beneficial for us, we also need to know that it has negative consequences if it becomes a pollution or if it becomes a waste. So there's also a foundation by Evan McCarthy, who also did a report on plastic pollution. And it is said that all the plastic that are packaged, only 50% are collected for recycling. 95% of that valuable plastic packaging material is worth about 80 to 120 billion USD, United States dollars. All of that is lost of unemployment. It is just thrown to the landfill or burned or thrown into the ocean. So we are talking here about circular economy of plastic. What does that even mean? In Liberia, right here in our country, plastic is a widespread use. You go to the market, they give you plastic. You go to the supermarket, they give you plastic. Everything we do around us involves plastic. The plastic bottle water, the plastic sachet water, everything around us is plastic. And these plastics, they are the source of the pollution, most of the pollution we have here today in Liberia. They are literally all in our streets. You can pass through the street, ask anybody what's in the along the road. What is that plastic gas? They are blocking all the drainages to that floor. Some of this problem is not because of the overrun of rivers or the ocean. It's because our very drainages are blocked by the plastic bag that we use and throw into the drainages. So by the time the system is flooded, no car can go, no car can come back. The drainage system over there is blocked. And plastic, when it blocks something, there is no passage. It's stuck. Like my colleague was saying, it's stuck. You can't get through it easily. Water can get past it. So these are some of the effects that when you dispose of plastic wrongly, that come back to us. So we really need to rethink how we design even the plastic. If we decide to use them, we should ensure that the reuse of plastic, like we were saying, because the reuse of plastic creates a circular economy for the usage of plastic as a whole. So I would like to say, if we apply correctly the circular economic benefits of plastic recycling, it will benefit the society because it becomes a source where you can recycle, you get people employed, and then you will get the means of getting the plastic out of the society. And if you will also get the plastic out of the environment as well. Because you have people picking those plastic up to go and sell it so that they can get money in return. I mean, somebody drink the water, you just take the bottle or the plastic or the gallon, just take it and go and sell it and you get some money out of it. And the person who recycles also makes profit out of it. So it will also get the environment. Let's get the plastic out of the environment and let's take it into the economy. We need to get plastic out of our environment. And let's put it into the economy, let's make some money out of it. So I would like to say, my vision for a circular economy for plastic, one, is to have an innovative measure by which the packaging of plastic will be 100%, not 100% short, 100% reusable. If it's not reusable, don't produce it. It should be recyclable. If it's not recyclable, do not produce it. It should be compostable. If you cannot compost it, do not produce it, because then it will leave an effect that we do not know how to do. And I also like to say, all plastic packaging should be free from hazardous chemicals. There are plastics that are produced that have hazardous chemicals in it, and when those things end up in the community, like you said, end up in our fishes, it end up in our food, and it ends up in our bodies. So it affects us. So if we cannot produce a better plastic that is free from hazardous chemicals, please do not produce them. And I would also like to recommend that reusable method should be applied where relevant. If we cannot do the one-use method, do not produce your plastic. But if we are still fighting for the stock of plastic use, I would like to recommend that whatever production of plastic that is made, it should be made in a way that it can be reused, it can either be composted, or it can be used for one time. Or let's go back to the full time that you said. Let's use the basket to go to the market, there's nothing wrong with that. But then, if we have to use the plastic, let us use something that we can read ourselves. We have to take responsibility. Let's be responsible. Let's take the awareness out there. Let's let people know these things that we know. Let's let the local people know these things that we know, so that we can prevent plastic in our environment, and that we can end up using them for a recyclable purpose that can also help the economy. Plastic is waste, yes, if you use it in a way and dash it in the community, but if you package them and take it to the recycler, they can be recycled. In China, we say there is no waste. It's just the way you do it. It's the way you put it out there. But every waste can be valuable if we can put our acts together and act right. So let us take the message out there. Plastic should be recycled, plastic out of our community, and let us take that initiative upon ourselves so that we can save this planet for the next generation. Thank you.
Our responsibility, our opportunity. Thank you.
I'm refusing as people to get involved with this process because everybody is sitting and waiting for government to come and collect their waste and go and dispose of them, which is a bad practice. Waste management is an A to Z business. You can't start A and leave Z out. Everybody needs to be included. And because people are not cognizant of the danger of waste and the impact waste have on climate actions, today our country is filthy and causing the mortality rate to increase from the issue of waste. Another issue here when it comes to the issue of waste. We have been facing challenge in our economy because there are a lot of legislations and policies that tackle the issue of waste, its separation, and its recycling that can be used for other economic valuable products and services. We have had this challenge in our environment because of the lack of legislation to enforce the issue of waste. Waste management is not sort and pepper business. If you drink from a plastic, you are responsible to dispose of that plastic. And because of your inability to know the danger it's causing to your action, we are continuing to have problems. On this bill, I identify a few recommendations that I decided to support this discussion with. One, we have municipal governments are not into revenue generation to support government budget because they are not active into environmental activities. Two, we suggest that the Environmental Protection Agency of the Republic of Liberia have a task force to enforce those legislation that have been passed over the years and go after them by making sure they are implemented and adhered to. Three, we say stop concessioning our extractive industry. Our concession companies have been causing a lot of problems to our environment. And those concession companies, concession activities need to be stopped if they are not biodiversity friendly. Because most time people get into the concession industry, the extractive industry from the concession background, and they pollute the environment, they pollute our marine habitat, they destroy our environment, and they leave without penalties. Another thing that was mentioned is to integrate traditional and cultural promotion to adhere to a healthy ocean and wetland ecosystems. We cannot get to save our planet or save our country or make the impacts we are making in terms of global contribution without traditional activities. Because you need women and children are on the front line of disasters. And these disasters are caused by our human activities on a daily basis. And without taking into consideration the gender balance, without taking into consideration their tradition and cultural practices, you will not be able to have an impact when it comes to climate action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Bianco. Can we have your views on these particular issues?
So, good afternoon, everyone. It's been a long session, but it's been very educative. And I'm just going to make my own contribution real fast. I'd like to start by saying our relationship with plastic needs rethinking. We have to start rethinking how this whole plastic business we're involved with, how we should go about it. I understand from what I have researched and what I've seen that plastic can be very versatile. We use them for different purposes. But the way we use them, I'm afraid to say, is incredibly wasteful. Like my colleague said, tons of plastic worth billions of dollars end up in the landfill where they go into the soil and destroy them, and or they get burned in the community because some people don't know how to get rid of the waste. Put all those plastic together, burn it, but what happens? The substance is still there in the soil. Or they get leaked into our environment, which is harmful for us. There's a documentary that I always like to watch. It's called The Blue Planet. Have you seen The Blue Planet before? Anybody seen it? That documentary shows the beauty of the ocean and how much the ocean gives back to us as people in the environment. But what do we do as people to that is serving us? What do we do? It says that 80 billion tons of plastic is leaked into the ocean every year. And that number is even rising. If we do not rethink the use of plastic, I can tell you there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish if we continue this process. That documentary shows how much plastic pollution does to the wildlife in the world at large. It is also said that plastic has increased of 24 in the past 50 years. While this material can be useful or beneficial for us, we also need to know that it has negative consequences if it becomes a pollution or if it becomes a waste. So there's also a foundation by Edwin McCarthy, who also did a report on plastic pollution. And it is said that all the plastic that are packaged, only 50% are collected for recycling. 95% of that valuable plastic packaging material is worth about 80 to 120 billion USD, United States dollars. All of that is lost of an economy. It is just thrown to the landfill or burned or thrown into the ocean. So we are talking here about circular economy of plastic. What does that even mean? In Liberia, right here in our country, plastic is a widespread use. You go to the market, they give you plastic. You go to the supermarket, they give you plastic. Everything we do around us involves plastic. The plastic bottle water, the plastic sachet water, everything around us is plastic. And these plastics, they are the source of the pollution, most of the pollution we have here today in Liberia. They are literally all in our streets. You can pass through the shoe. I see what you're doing along the road. What is that? Plastic bags. They are blocking all the drainages without water. Some of these problems is not because of the overrun of rivers or the ocean. It's because our very drainages are blocked by the plastic bag that we use and throw into the drainages. So by the time we use down, is flooding. No car can go, no car can come back. The drainage system over there is blocked. And plastic, when it blocks something, there is no passage. It's stuck. Like my colleague was saying, it's stuck. You can't get through it easily. Water can get past it. So these are some of the effects that when you dispose of plastic wrongly, that come back to us. So we really need to rethink how we design even the plastic. If we decide to use them, we should ensure that the reuse of plastic, like we were saying, because the reuse of plastic creates a circular economy for the usage of plastic as a whole. So I would like to say, if we apply correctly the circular economic benefits of plastic recycling, it will benefit the society because it becomes a source where you can recycle, you get people employed, and then you will get the means of getting the plastic out of the society. And if you can, you will also get the plastic out of the environment as well. Because you have people picking those plastic off the boards and sell it so that they can get money in return. I mean, somebody drink the water, you just take the bottle or the plastic or the gallon and just take it and go and sell it and you get some money out of it. And the person who recycles also makes profit out of it. So it will also get the environment. Let's get the plastic out of the environment and let's get into the economy. We need to get plastic out of our environment. And let's put it into the economy, let's make some money out of it. So I would like to say my vision for a circular economy for plastic, one, is to have innovative measure by which the packaging of plastic will be 100%, not 100% short, 100% reusable. If it's not reusable, don't produce it. It should be recyclable. If it's not recyclable, do not produce it. It should be compostable. If you cannot compost it, do not produce it because then it will leave an effect that we do not know how to do. And I also like to say, all plastic packaging should be free from hazardous chemicals. There are plastics that are produced that have hazardous chemicals in it. And when those things end up in the community, like you said, end up in our fishes, it end up in our food, and it ends up in our bodies. So it affects us. So if you cannot produce a better plastic that is free from hazardous chemicals, please do not produce them. And I would also like to recommend that reusable metal should be applied where relevant. If we cannot do the one-use metal, do not produce the plastic. But if we are still fighting for the stock of plastic use, I would like to recommend that whatever production of plastic that is made, it should be made in a way that it can be reused, it can either be composted, or it can be used for one time. Or let's go back to the old time that you said. Let's use the basket to go to the market, there's nothing wrong with that. But then, if we have to use the plastic, let us use something that we can read ourselves. We have to take responsibility. Let's be responsible. Let's take the awareness out there. Let's let people know these things that we know. Then let the local people know these things that we know so that we can prevent plastic in our environment and that we can end up using them for a recyclable purpose that can also help the economy. Plastic is waste, yes, if you use it in a way and dash it in the community, but if you package them and take it to the recycler, they can be recycled. In China, we say there is no waste. It's just the way you do it. It's the way you put it out there. But every waste can be valuable if we can put our acts together and act right. So let us take the message out there. Plastic should be recycled, plastic out of our community, and let us take that initiative upon ourselves so that we can save this planet for the next generation. Thank you.
Our responsibility, our opportunity. Thank you, Landfill. We will have a response from Mr. Foreman.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all. I want to thank my fellow panelists for their input so far. I'm not going to go back to some of the drastic consequences plastic has on our environment because they have already spoken extensively on that. But I would like to look at this topic from the private sector perspective. Firstly, I'm reading from Mr. General Manager of HISA Liberia Incorporated. We are a waste management company and we are also into plastic recycling currently. Now, looking at our local context and taking our capital city, Monrovia, as a case study, we have approximately 780 tons of waste produced on a daily basis. And this topic is sensitive because if there is one topic that concerns each and every one of us in this hall is this issue of waste management and especially plastic waste management. Because in one way or another we produce waste every other day. In fact, just from the beginning of this gathering in the morning up till now, each and every one of us here has generated some form of waste, including plastic waste, because we all drank water. Now, most of the questions were being put to the EPA, asking the EPA, what are you doing in Sanitary, what are you doing in Ganta, what are you doing in Nimba? But each and every one of us seated here has a role to play now, because if I ask the question, what are you going to do with the bottle of water which you just drank today? A lot of people will find it difficult to answer. It will probably end up in the trash and go back to the environment. So this involves collective action, and the steps need to be taken by each and every one of us. Out of the 780 tons of waste produced in Monrovia, only 30% is collected and disposed in the landfill. That means 70% of the waste we generate is somewhere out there in the drains, in the beaches, and so on. 14% of which is plastic. Now that's enormous. If you take 14% of 780 tons, you see the amount of plastic we are talking about. And of course, the consequences goes back to all what my fellow panelists later on enumerated. But coming back to our topic, the circular economy. Looking at the circular economy from the plastic pollution perspective, what will it entail? It will entail that we treat plastic in such a way that when it is manufactured and comes down to the consumer, after the product which was bottled in the plastic, for example, the water or the beverage is consumed, that bottle should go back into the system to produce other bottles which should be used for the same purpose. The bottle should not end up in a landfill. Then we will not be having a closed system. So, from the private sector perspective, we have been thinking of looking at waste not as a problem, but as an opportunity. Because waste, if you add value to waste, it will rather become a resource which, can be used to improve the livelihood of our fellow citizens, fellow girls, fellow people with disability, and so on. So, in order to achieve that, there are a lot of recommendations that we have. Firstly, the ED mentioned to the ambassador the issue of banning single-use plastics. And he said it's a procedure, it's a process. It cannot be done immediately because you need to put in place certain measures to ensure that your ban is effective. And we think from our perspective that it entails a lot of behavioral change. Firstly, when you go to the market and you want to buy your pepper, you as an individual can tell that market woman, don't put my pepper in a plastic bag, put it in a newspaper, for example, or an old paper. You are already contributing in one way or another in reducing this issue of plastic pollution. So we have to be conscious of it, and each and every action that you want to take, if you have it in the back of your mind, that you have to reduce the amount of plastic that you are using, then together we can achieve something. Secondly, all these companies producing this plastic, the PET bottles, the HDPE bottles, and so on, they are right here with us. Our call, our recommendation to the EPA is not to increase the taxes like somebody mentioned earlier on, but to have a dialogue with these people. As an industry, if you are producing a good, you have to be conscious of the byproducts of your product. What happens to the bottle that you sell your water? So the EPA can engage in this kind of dialogue with these companies and encourage them to buy back principles or policies in place where they can get back the bottles which they have sold the water in and recycle it, because it is possible today to use these same bottles to produce PET flakes that can be used to produce other bottles. It is quite possible. It is being done even locally here. Us as a company, we have already engaged in that. Thanks to the Livelihood and Employment Creation Project of the UNDP, we benefited from that grant and were able to procure machinery to start using these bottles to produce flakes that would eventually be used to produce other bottles. That is our own way of contributing to this circular economy. So these industries which are producing these beverages here, they can take example from what is happening in Europe. In the European Union, all the companies producing plastic bottles have been mandated by 2025 to use 25% of recycled material for their bottles. And that's going to increase to 30% by 2030. It's already been mandated. And they are being encouraged. There are incentives for companies who are going to achieve this target. So it's something we can equally do here. And this law, which was passed in the European Union, creates a big market for recycled plastic. That's where the economic opportunity comes in. For those who are thinking of investing in the private sector, this is an open call. This is the future of waste management, recycling, because once you have these big companies like Coca-Cola, Unilever, Colgate, and so on, telling you they want to produce their bottles with 25% of recycled plastic, they will be scrambling all over the place here to buy our waste bottles, which is something which is good for our environment. Nextly, we need to build economies of scale on local initiatives geared towards waste recycling. I was so excited to see the products of our colleague who presented our flower jars from plastic bottles. These kinds of initiatives need to be encouraged. We need to provide incentive to them, because plastic waste, plastic pollution is a global problem, but the solution has to start locally from small initiatives that we have. So when we see people like trying to extract crude oil from plastic, produce pavements, and so on, our recommendation is that this initiative should be encouraged, incentives should be provided, so it can be scaled up at the national level. As of today, we are collecting approximately 35 tons of plastic bottles per month, and that's only for a certain part of Monrovia. So probably with some incentives and encouragement, we can scale that project up to the national level, and of course it will be beneficial to our environment. Finally, we have a problem when it comes to the functioning system for waste management, because we cannot solve the problem of plastic in isolation of the entire waste management chain. We are all aware that in Nigeria there's a big problem when it comes to managing waste. So plastic pollution forms part of that system. So in order to address the issue of plastic, the entire waste management chain has to be addressed. One of my colleagues here mentioned the issue of plastics in the landfill. I am into waste management, and 3 years ago, there were about 3 fire incidents at the landfill. Serious fire incidents. And I can tell you, they were so bad because of the presence of plastics in that place. Because we all know what happens when just a little fire touches plastic. It takes a very long time to put it out. And you have that huge quantity of plastic in the landfill with fire that it makes it so bad. So the issue of the functional collection system is important equally for us to target plastic pollution. Thank you very much.
And finally, we will have a special statement from Mr. Slevin.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Slevin. I'm a Liberian youth climate campaigner. I'm privileged to serve as a lead director for the youth initiative of climate empowerment. naturally away. I'm grateful to be here to share platform with people who have expertise in this field that we're talking about, especially as it relates to tackling plastic pollution. So I will just rattle on 3 points and just close it up from there. So when we talk about tackling plastic pollution, it requires everyone our efforts. It requires young people efforts. It requires practical effort from every individual. Let's look at our life, our entire life that we live. How many of us live a plastic-free life? No way. We're talking about businesses. How many of us support plastic-free business? You go to the big supermarket, you order for products, you pull your goods in a plastic, you carry it, and drop that plastic on the streets. Let's look at the aspect of young people because I'm speaking from the young people perspective. How many young people can put their either aside and move on the street to pick up plastic little items? Now, institutions are forming a youth initiative for common empowerment with launch of a campaign called the Walk in Peace campaign. And that Walk in Peace campaign was intended to beat plastic waste. We take it from double bridge on the Somalia Drive to Landfill Junction. People plastic from every home on the streets. People look at how to be people look at how to be you that left places. But let me tell you, the generation we are in today, generation depends on us, we as young people. If we make a change, we have to step forward. We have to forget about the title, we have to forget about the big portfolio. We have to step up on the field. We have to put in practical aspect on the entire plastic pollution. So if we talk about supporting plastic-free businesses, we talk about picking plastic litters from our various streets, schools, and offices. We talk about carrying our reusable plastic bags in the rural market. Our female who usually go in the market to buy goods and products. How many of them can buy a single big blue plastic and use that big blue plastic for 1 year? No way. Every day they go in the market and purchase new plastic. Every day. Tell me. And that entire plastic, after using it, we'll drop it, we'll empty it out of the some will be used for branding purposes, other will go into the oceans. We are doing it to ourselves. And we here today we're talking about plastic pollution, we'll go again. Wow, the practical aspect. We are not taking the practical aspect. When we go to wash up, look at our water bottle, we drink from here, water, we drop the bottle down. How many of them using the flag? No way. We say we do the area with plastic waste, and we're talking about plastic pollution. Every day, people hear saying, we ourselves not practicing it. You go to our room, you say our child will go back, car, and you sit there and like, you put your car in plastic, you finish using it, drop the plastic down. People use plastic. So, in order to tackle plastic pollution, we have to eliminate unnecessary and problematic plastic packaging through redesign and innovation. I want everybody to join me. Let's draw our sister Kazatu. Our sister did a good job. She put a sample activity. Kazatu should be in another area doing different things, but Kazatu said, no, I will take plastic there and make flower pots. Let me pull my pride aside. I want to go to baseball. Me up to go on the field with my friends and walk past everyone, but let me just do something meaningful. No way, you can't find young people into that. But young people, let's say, okay, today, we'll do a beach cleanup campaign, you're not find it. But then we want government, we want NGO, to not find out that they all money, we buy. How many of us can actually, in our own mind, voluntarily enter the community, carry on community services, and see how that our environment will be free from plastic? We are not doing it. You just talk on plastic, and I will not really go on any sort of